Hi, everybody. My name's Libby. We're just going to give a couple more minutes for the rest of people to join, and thank you for coming. All right, we'll get started now. Just want to thank you again for attending. We're super excited to be here. Let's go over the agenda real quick. I'll click that again. Well, the agenda is that we'll go through some introductions and welcoming, and then we'll have our presentation. Sorry about that. I'm back. I'll just not share my screen. I think that's where we ran into some issues. But so we'll go through the presentation and then we'll leave some time at the end for questions and answers. Our main speaker today is Olivia Larson. She's the program director at GoDataGo. She's a graduate from BYU, Idaho, with a degree in environmental geoscience and an emphasis in GIS. She's skilled in machine learning, point cloud registration and mapping, language normalization, and other various data science projects. And we'll also hear briefly from one of our team members, Seth Adair. He's been with us for almost 2 years now, mainly working with point cloud registration. And then about 25 minutes after the hour, we'll open it up to questions like I mentioned earlier. And without further ado, I'll turn the time over to Olivia.
Thank you. Just a quick disclosure, I am getting over an illness, so I promise I don't always sound like this, so just bear with me as we go through this today. So as y'all know, our topic is turning data into action, and I just wanted to quickly comment on how powerful that statement is, because honestly, your data has so much more potential than what most people know. So let's go ahead and get into it. So yeah, turning data into action. Why would businesses invest in data science? So one of the biggest drawbacks to data science is that it's not as common as most people think. Although all businesses do have some form of data, it's not always used. And so not using that can only come as a loss to either you or to your business. So whether you are starting out as a new business or you've been um, in the game for quite a few years, there's a pretty good chance that you may be missing out on what your data holds. Going into this, it's most important to know what your data is and where you can find it. So whether you are like a sales business or a product based where you're giving a service, those different types really will tell you where your data is. For us, typically at GoDataGo, we aren't doing as much sales per se, but we are giving services. And so one of the biggest ways that we are tracking our data is by comparing it with goals and using productivity to track our goals. But for different business types, whenever we look at what type of information is your business using, you have to start out with a very high level. So are you using quantitative or qualitative? Now that can mean, going back to sales, are you just using quantitative, like how many sales do you produce each month? Or if you're looking at hours, so if you're tracking or trying to be more productive in your employees for your hours, how many hours does each employee work compared to what do they actually produce? So that's the kind of qualitative side, but a bit more hard to understand, but not very hard to work with is qualitative. So qualitative data is a bit more tricky. Oftentimes people don't think of data science when it comes to qualitative data because it's more of literal questions and words instead of numbers. So it's a bit harder to kind of think about it in your mind, but it is actually just as, if not more, helpful when trying to answer questions about your own business. So ways that you can go into your qualitative or quantitative data. One of the easiest ways that every business should be using are surveys. So just a quick example would be if you're selling something. Whenever you sell something, oftentimes you'll have that screen where people go in and just pay for things. And then you ask maybe for that person's email, you'll ask, how was your service today, or things like that. Surveys actually can hold so much more information than just, did you like what you got today? Did you hate us or did you like us? Surveys can often lead to different information, like location. So you could ask them where they're from. You could ask them um, many different questions, like, are you in school? Do you use this product often? Or any number of things. You have such a great opportunity to learn more about your own business if you are running surveys. Next, kind of going with surveys is, are you getting sales information if you are a sales business? Again, if you aren't doing that, you are just losing out. So often you could just be making sales without really understanding your own customer. Next, do you keep record of expenses and profits? Every business does do that, but they don't always know about that information that they are using. So expense and profit records could just be like invoices and things that you keep track of there. But if you're not keeping track of them comparatively per month or per year, or even location, you're missing out on how you can compare those expense and profits within your own business. You don't even have to go out and look for extra data. You have it all right there. And next, if you're less sales based, so if you're not really a sales company, how are you actually tracking your progress? Because you can't necessarily say, well, I sold more than I did last month, or our profits beat our expenses. So then how do you track that? You have to set yourself goals and benchmarks. So let's say you provide services, or you are making a product that serves other people. For me, as a project manager, I often have to create my own benchmarks and standards for my teams, so I can actually track and create my own data to help my team. So if I don't have anything to base their progress off of, then I'm just losing. I don't have anywhere to go from there, because all I'm doing is just accepting their rates. And we never want to just accept where we're at. We want to challenge it and ask questions about where we are. So going past that, some of these questions that you might want to answer with data science. This sounds like a very broad term. Data science answers questions, but really it's your data that answers these questions. So some of these questions that could be answered are, how does your business compare to others? So simple. You have to make sure that you are gathering your own data, just like every other business might be. So if you are gathering that data, you are at least as good as other companies. But just know that if you're not doing that, you are behind. On top of that, so to compare your business, you could go for profit and expense margins. You could just kind of see where you are compared to just generic benchmarks that are put out there. Say you're in the automotive industry. We've done expense and profit reports for automotive companies, and one of the biggest things is that they didn't know that their data was being stored in ways that were not productive and were not helpful. So once we were able to actually show them their different rates and change their data from just this kind of jumbled mess into something that they could actually use, they could clearly see answers to questions like, oh, our profits do compare this much to the industry standard, which was so helpful for them. Other great questions are, how does my business compare to this time last year? One of the biggest things is it is so easy to compare yourself to yourself. Again, if you're not doing that, you are behind. You always have to be constantly thinking about growth. And if you're not comparing yourself, at least to yourself, you're behind. So that's super easy. You can just pull pull numbers for yourself from different dates. And it's always so helpful to make sure that you're keeping track of not just like, I guess if you were a sales company, don't just keep track of numbers, but make sure that your time, that your dates are all also kept well, so that you can go back and look at that data also. Next, excuse me. Next, how are we hitting our target demographic? And this is one of the harder questions to answer, because oftentimes companies just kind of let themselves run and don't kind of keep themselves on a track towards their target. So make sure that whatever you are doing, your own production, that you are keeping track of where you want to be. And if you aren't at that target, you can start asking why. And then you can start looking at where has my data been going? You could go back and check out either if you're doing sales, who's buying your product and where. Is one store doing better? Is your store not doing well because it is in a specific location that isn't hitting your demographic? So one great example is on BYU campus. They the business majors do this really great class where they have to create their own business, but they have to set up camp. They have to set up their little store at a specific location. And oftentimes, some people are given really bad locations. And so if they're selling stuff like jewelry or pottery or things like that, but they're stuck over by the what's it called? The exercise biz building, maybe that's not the best place for them. Maybe they should be over by the arts department, so that they can really hit their target demographic. So just things like that. Next, oh, so easy, is anyone looking at our website? If you think that that's not the most simplest form of data science, is just checking your views on your sites or your ads or things like that, then you are missing out. You have to know that every number that you can get to view your own productivity is data science, and is you really using your own data. So that's a great one. And then what is the public opinion of our business in the public? And this is one of those great ones to put on surveys. You have to really put yourself out there to ask these questions so that you can get answers back, and so that you can really see where you fall. Just another quick point is that there are many faces to data science. So as we've been talking, we've kind of gone over qualitative and quantitative data, but also there are just different forms that this data comes in. And there are so many different forms that you could never say, well, it's too complex. There's just not a right method out there for me, different things like that. There's a ton of different ways that you could be using and viewing your own data. One of the easiest ways, obviously, is Excel. If you're not thinking of Excel whenever you think of data, then you're thinking too hard. You have to really think about, this is my data and this is how I can view it. Super great way. Other than that, you could be using charts and graphs, another great visual for actually displaying your own data so that you can even see it better. Maps, and then analysis. So going in, you don't just want to be able to view it, but you want to be able to really ask questions and then dive deep into your data. There's more complex and more time-intensive things like coding and scripts, data mining and extraction, and then collection and surveys. Those take a bit more effort and time to actually go into your data, but they're so worth it, and they actually bring out more results and make it more productive as well for you. We'll just quickly go over geospatial services, and I did touch on this a bit earlier as far as location data. If your data has location, then you are using geospatial data. So you could be using that that location for either let's say suitability studies. So is your location really the best place for you? You could really go through that and think about, are we reaching our target? Is our target in this location? Things like that. And then network analysis. Going over those is a bit more tricky, but if you're really trying to understand how different pieces are connected, let's say if you're trying to use a network for your business, whether it be different routes that logistics might take, you could be using that. Again, these are all pretty high level land cover studies and data-based mapping. We don't have too much time to go over those now, but if you have any questions, we can definitely talk about those later. And then spatial data annotation. I brought on Seth Adair to kind of talk more about this. We have done some great projects with spatial data annotation, and annotation is one of those very basic forms of machine learning and AI that just about anyone can be using. So Seth Adair, if you have time and you're still around, would you mind taking time to talk about this?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Olivia. Um, right, I'm Seth Adair. I was asked to just give a small little talk about one of our clients. Um, the main thing that they have asked us to produce for them has been, as Olivia said, it's been spatial data annotation. This is actually one of the most important things that you can discuss in the data science sphere, in my opinion. Our client had a single question, and their question was, how can we optimize our warehouse spaces in order to make them more efficient and more effective? So we devised a solution with our client that involved basically 3 steps. It is not on that slide. Yeah. So the first step involved using a LiDAR scanner. This is a Zeb Horizon LiDAR scanner. That glass area that you see is where it shoots out lasers, basically, and it rotates in a circle so that the lasers will bounce back towards the device, and it's able to measure the distances between each individual point of the laser, and it's able to create what's called a LiDAR map. Olivia, if we could go to the next slide. So this is the type of warehouse that we've been helping them with. This is basically a giant storage rack inside of a massive warehouse where we have been taking our LiDAR scanners and we've been walking up and down each of the aisles in between these rackings in order to get an accurate picture of what the inside of the building looks like. And with that data, we've been able to collect it, organize it, and put it in such a manner to where we've been able to give back to our client these blueprints. And these blueprints are basically millimeter accurate according to the LiDAR scans. And with this information, they're able to take these blueprints and organize their facilities in such a way so that they're able to increase their efficiency and address any issues that the building may have structurally. Yeah, I think that's about all the time that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Seth, for talking on that. So that's one of our biggest ways that we have seen um, our data really go from the smallest level of just gathering that point cloud with that scanner and turn it into something so useful and so accurate that we have also compared to years past how those warehouses have changed and how things have improved on our side via technology and different programming that we've done. So it's been so helpful. Thank you, Seth. So aside from that, those have been our best ways that we have seen data really help our clients and our businesses. I think we're good for questions if anyone else has any.
Into the chat.
If you have a question, there is a Q&A chat bubble. That's where you can put your questions.
And while we are waiting for questions, I just wanted to comment on how one of the hardest things that we've seen from our clients is they don't always know the best way to store their own data. The other day we got spreadsheets in the form of PDFs, and you could imagine how hard that would be trying to get that data out of a PDF. You can't really just switch forms like that. Once it's in that form, it's locked. And so we had to type out by hand all of that data. And that was about, I think it was 9 different spreadsheets, and each spreadsheet was about 6 pages long. So it was pretty rough. So one of my biggest advices, I guess, would be to really store your own data in a very user-friendly way before you give it to someone to actually look at, so that they can actually use it and look at it then. Let's see, it looks like we got some questions. The first one was, I know you have shared different data analysis applications today. What are the most common projects that you do for clients? So for us personally, we've been doing a ton of data annotation. We've done machine learning projects, and our data that we get is in the form of either pictures or point clouds. So they'll give us these pictures. So let's say we've been working with crops. They get these pictures, thousands and oh my goodness, thousands of pictures of crops, and we sort through them and we annotate them to go in and provide a model for the machine learning algorithm. So then it can then look for, these crops are what I use, and these ones aren't, and so then it can do that for them. So we've loved doing those types of projects. Let's see. for a new company like a single food truck business, what would be a good software to use for starting out collecting and organizing data? Maybe just Excel.
So Olivia, I'll take that answer.
Okay.
So this is Ryan Brewer. I'm one of the directors here at GoDataGo. For a new company like yourself, a small food truck business, one of the most important things that you'll want to have from day one is good accounting software. And there's accounting software. You've heard of QuickBooks Online. That does have a charge, and there are other apps out there. One is called Wave Apps. It's a free application that you can use from the web, and those will really get you started in that idea of collecting data and then being able to report off of that, and then being able to look at trends from what you were doing last year, last month, last quarter, while keeping it in a very organized way. So for a small single food truck business like yourself, starting off with your financial information, which will include your sales, will be the most important piece of software you can get from the get-go. And then after that, there's a lot of other additional software that's out there, but I wouldn't focus on that until you make sure your financials are well read.
All right, we're ready to close now. Thank you for your questions and for attending, and thank you, Olivia and Seth, for being willing to present today. The recording will be available later today after this meeting, so you'll probably get that in your email. And it looks like we have another question coming, so I'll be patient and we can wait for that one. All right.
Yes. So this is a question from Mark. Has your team built any chat bots? There is quite a different capability, and with AI and where it's Chat GPT and the different AIs that are out there, chatbots are becoming an incredible tool that we can help build those using, whether it's AI. A traditional chatbot was more of a question and answer with a decision tree. So that's a most basic chatbot, but being able to leverage the tools that are now just rapidly coming at us, we definitely have that experience and the ability to help out there.
All right. I think that covers everything. Again, the recording will be available later today, and we thank you for coming. And feel free to reach out to myself or Ryan if you have any additional questions, or Olivia. The three of us would be happy to help you in any way, any questions you may have, or just whatever you have questions on. So have a great day. Thank you for attending.
Thank y'all.